Hello, athletes and fans of bodybuilding. I'm Linda Murray, 8 times Miss Olympia, and you are watching Olympia TV. If you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe and support what we do here at Olympia TV. And if you like this video, please like it. Also, hit that notification button so that you do not miss any of the great episodes, because we're rocking here. We just got off live with Tarek and the crew, right?
The boys warmed it up for us.
Yeah,
thanks,
they warmed
Tarek,
it up
for warming it up for us.
Yeah, thank you, Tarek, and thank you for being so timely for the ladies. We appreciate that.
You do.
Yes, so joining me, of course, is my co-host, Wendy Fortino. She has qualified 8 times for the Olympia stage to compete in our figure Olympia division. She's fresh off of winning the Triple O. So she will be in Las Vegas.
The inaugural, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. It was awesome.
Yes. And for this conversation today, our guest joining us in 2015, she won the USA Championships. She turned pro in 2015.
She did.
Prior to that, you had only competed in the NPC show, I believe, 1 time.
Yes, ma'am.
Went into the USA Championships, turned pro in the women's physique division. And then in that following year, in 2016, she made her pro debut.
Yep.
And qualified for the Olympia stage. So she competed on the Olympia stage in 2016 after just a year from being an amateur. And since 2016, now we're here in 2024, and you have been on that Olympia stage the majority of the years, probably only missing maybe 2 years. I know 2020, and you had a year where you came close to qualifying.
Yes, ma'am. My second year as a pro, I missed when we had the points. I missed it by 1 point. So
yes.
I have a song for you, Michaela. All I do is win, 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 win.
That was actually my favorite. So I know we'll get into this, but I used to show cattle, like livestock, which is pretty much bodybuilding, but for cows. And that was my favorite song. That was like my theme song back then.
How did I know?
Well, Michaela Aycock, you are fierce.
Thank
She's
you
fierce,
very much.
guys. Listen to her competition history and what she's accomplished. And every single year, you get better and better.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we want to talk about this. Like,
Yes.
you qualified for the Rising Phoenix. We just had on this past Wednesday, giving the lineup of the athletes that will be at the Rising Phoenix. You're always at the top, right there, knocking on the door where Andrea Shaw is. And
I want to, not to interrupt you, but I want to publicly thank you. I listened to that live, and so did my mom. And I really just want to publicly thank you and give you your flowers here, because like the words that you said, like we don't even really know each other that closely, but you've watched me throughout the years, and everything you said was basically like opening up my book and reading it, about how things are always a fight for me, and I'm consistent, and just like my work ethic and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the kind words that you shared for me on there.
You're welcome, Michaela. I see when you see a champion, and I've been to many of the shows, guys. She's won the Tampa Pro. She won my show, the Atlanta Pro. She won the Hawaii Pro.
Wow, yeah.
You also won the Omaha Pro.
Yes, ma'am. And the Toronto Pro.
And the Toronto Pro. Yes, yes. So, I see your progress consistently in every aspect of this, as far as, when you went from women's physique over into women's bodybuilding, you embraced women's bodybuilding, you transitioned very easily as far as putting on the size, as far as the posing and mastering the posing, because the posing's different from women's physique into bodybuilding. So That's just, I see it and I call it as I see it.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what, Michaela, let's actually start from kind of like towards the beginning of your journey. I would love to tell us a little bit about you leading up to turning pro in 2015, because I really think that to give the viewers a good sense of your journey, you did start in women's physique. So I would love to hear you kind of explain that journey into your pro card, and then we're going to talk about this incredible transformation that you've made, because this is what is just so amazing about you, is how you've really transformed your physique. So let's start with that. I'm going to pull up this photo of you when you turned pro, but just go for it.
Do you mind if I start like a little bit before bodybuilding, like in transition into bodybuilding or like fitness itself? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
So originally growing up from about 8 to 21, I showed livestock. And if anybody's not familiar with that, it's the way that I could describe it is literally bodybuilding, but you're showing cattle or pigs or anything of that nature. And for me, I showed cattle. It takes, so if you could imagine like having a house full of bodybuilders, but you're the coach and you have to do everything for them in terms of you have to bathe them, you have to feed them, you have to walk them, you have to, do everything for them.
Yeah.
That is showing cattle. So it's like a house full of bodybuilders, but a barn full of cows. So that is what really like my work ethic and my competitive nature stemmed from, and what I learned everything about myself in terms of, what it takes to win and the work that it comes behind it. Because like a lot of times you would have cattle that are good, just like genetics and bodybuilding are good genetically. But if you don't work those cattle the way that they need to be worked, they're not going to succeed in the show ring. So really like that's more of a junior sport. And whenever you get towards the graduating age of being out of like the 4-H and the FFA age range, when you're about 18 to 20, you start showing in like the collegiate division. And then from there, there's no more junior shows. So I was kind of at a crossroads there. And that was around the time of like when you're 18-year-old girl, you're like, I'm skinny, but I think I should be fitter, or, these things like this, or I want to eat healthier. So I started going online and researching things about like it. And I was not like, like an overweight kid or anything like that. I was very, in terms of fit, I was skinny, you know what I mean? But just in that teenage mindset, you're like, I can be fitter, right? So I want to look better or something, be healthier. So I started looking things up online, and I'm sure you guys know who Jamie Eason is.
Yes.
I came across her stuff.
Really fast. Is this you?
It is. There you go.
Oh, wow.
That's funny. Yeah. So I won that show. And like I said, that's where my competitive nature came from, because every show I went to, I won. Everybody knew me as the girl that's the first in the barn and the last to leave, and the one that's going to outwork everyone. And that's something that I've carried into bodybuilding as well. But anyways, that's actually not me, but
okay.
Yeah, that top one is for sure.
That's so cool.
I actually have a post on my Instagram too from recent, where I just basically describe everything that I just did. But anyways, flash forward, I was researching. I didn't even know what bodybuilding was, right? So I found Jamie Eason's workouts, her diet, everything on bodybuilding.com. And I started following that to a T, because I'm the type of person, when I do anything, I'm going to do it to the absolute best of my ability. So like I said, when I was getting into that transition period of competing in the livestock industry, that's when I found the gym, and that kind of like took over my competitive nature. Again, I still didn't know anything about competing, but the competitiveness for myself in the gym and following those workouts. And she said, okay, today you do this, tomorrow you do this, next week you do this a little bit better. I fell in love with that. And I fell in love with the work and the process and the bettering myself and the seeing the changes to my physique. And so again, going back to like how I do anything is how I do everything. So I took that work ethic from bodybuilding, or from the livestock, into the gym. And I was like, well, how can I be even better at this now? So the more I researched, the more I found, and I found bodybuilding coaches. And I'm like, oh, if I hire a coach, he can tell me exactly what to do. And so I hired a coach that I ended up, flash forward, I had for 7 years, that, helped me turn pro, helped me win my, pro debut season. So it's just one of like, I don't want to get emotional about it because like, it's one of those things where you start to, think about the whole process and the whole journey. But I feel like everything took off in a fast trajectory. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I seen the little comment pop up.
Yeah, no, isn't that awesome?
Everything took off in a fast trajectory. And I just fell in love with the process and the work of bettering myself. And I seen that. And then it all just led into bodybuilding. So I feel like I got lost a little bit there, but in terms of getting into the gym, and so like I said, how I do anything is how I do everything, and just fell in love with the work. And then I got the coach, and he more so introduced me to competing and was like, okay, well, I think that you could do this. You could be good at this. And I was like, okay, why not? I never had like I said, I didn't know anything about bodybuilding. I never had aspirations to be a women's bodybuilder. I never had like goals to have all these muscles, or to like, if I think back 10 years ago, I never thought about looking the way that I do now, but my work ethic, led me to that.
Mm-hmm. Well, we understand that, I mean, it's not like we just like wake up one day again and say, oh, we want to be a bodybuilder. I know Wendy, she competed in track and field. I was a cheerleader, and we just love like having those goals and having something in front of us. And it's kind of like it found us.
Yes.
And then you feel it and you love it and you're in alignment with it. And the next thing you know,
this season leads to next season, and one thing leads to another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and like you were talking about, leading into the USAs, it all just happened so fast. So I almost feel like I didn't even have time to get good at an amateur level. Right. Yeah. So I didn't even know what I was doing. I went into the USAs like a fish out of water. It was just me and my mom there. I had no idea what to do. I had my makeup lady kind of give me some tips on like, okay, this is how you handle yourself. And I even remember being on stage, and then I won, and I come off stage, and my mom was like, are you happy? And I was like, absolutely. But I don't even know what just happened, So yeah. It's just been like every year I learn something new, whether it be just about myself or about bodybuilding. And, I went from 2015 winning my pro card to then being
on the Olympia stage in 2016.
Barely a year later. So I didn't even know what I was doing there, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many parts to all of this that it's really impressive that you were able to pull it all together. Because when I look at the image that Wendy put up of you here, just the pose, the everything is on point. Like at the USA, like how many competitors from all over the country show up at the USA in the women's physique division. So that says a lot.
That was actually I don't know how many, but that was actually a very big class too. Like, cause I have the picture of the entire call out.
Yeah.
And it was big.
Okay. So who did you model? I mean, you said you had a coach at the time, and with as far as like the posing, to get the posing right, because back in 2016, I'm thinking about like the internet and access to all of what we have now. You can go and look at Dana Lynn Bailey. So did you know Dana Lynn Bailey?
Yeah. That was my, like, I wrote a call. When I say college, I was dual enrolled in high school. So I think I was maybe like 17, 18. I wrote a college paper, and it was something to the effect of, a model or something like that. And I wrote it on Dana because that was right around when Instagram was happening. And I didn't know who Dana was when I first started into bodybuilding or into the gym. Yeah. But that was right around when Instagram was becoming a thing. So I seen Dana, and immediately, like, I just wanted to do what she did. I think everybody at that time wanted to be Dana, for any female that, like was in the gym. So yeah, it was definitely her. And then in terms of just like learning my posing and stuff, I actually worked with Kenny Wallach. So like I said, I just had that mindset of how can I be the best at this right now?
Yeah.
How can I take what I have right now and make it the best? So
Mhm.
I want to hire somebody that, you know, can help me with that. So Kenny helped me with my posing for sure. And then I think like something too for competitors coming up that's good is like now you can go on YouTube, like not even just if you maybe you don't have the means to hire a posing coach, go on
Mhm.
YouTube and watch like us at the Olympia. Like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you're going to have to learn the poses for your physique, but you can see how we move on stage and how we present ourselves and then just practice that and see, you know, what works for you.
Mhm. Mhm. So you're known for your conditioning. So did I mean from the beginning, as far as understanding the type of diet that physique athletes, bodybuilders, us maintaining muscle and just losing body fat, did you grasp that quickly, and or did you somewhat have some of the genetics already of being lean and having an understanding of nutrition?
I don't want to say that it's necessarily a genetic thing because like
Mhm.
I was a skinny kid, but it is like very hard for me to get in shape. And when I
Yeah.
say hard, I mean like on paper, my diet, my cardio regimen, stuff like that. In terms of bringing the condition that I can bring, I think a lot of people think like since it is like consistent across the board over the years of just like consistently being as conditioned as I am, that they think that it comes a little bit, you know, genetically easier for me.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
Mhm.
maybe I do have a little bit of a predisposition for that somewhere
Yes.
along the line. But,
Mhm.
you know, at the end of the day, if I didn't do what I do in terms of my meticulousness with my diet and my
Mhm.
cardio and how
Mhm.
intense that I am in the gym, I
Yeah.
don't think that I would be anywhere near what I am.
Mhm.
I'm actually
Okay.
glad that you started with the livestock story. You gave us a little bit of a background on your work ethic because
Yeah.
it's really important for people to understand this. It's not just about somebody being genetically gifted, especially getting to the level that you've gotten. I mean, the level of muscularity, conditioning, balance that you've achieved. It's like, you know, that comes from somebody who I always say that, like, you know, if somebody were to gain success and then lose it all, there are people who the success is within you, right? And
Yes.
for you, it's like whatever you were going to do, it's like the success is in you. So with
Mhm.
livestock, you were obsessed with that world. And when you are obsessed with the world, you are going to succeed at it. And so you
Mhm.
basically started a new chapter, it sounds like in 2015, and you're applying the same level of work ethic, tenacity into this new area, and you're doing your homework, you
Yeah.
know, and
Mhm.
you found that there were all kinds of resources for you on YouTube. You found all kinds of stuff for you to succeed with, and you went in with
Mhm.
such a polished package right out of the gate. So that
Mhm.
sounds to me like your work ethic is something that has just been with you. Let's actually backtrack before even the livestock. And as a kid, were you an athlete? Did you do sports? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
I played soccer for I think maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
But that's also see like everything has a transition, right? Like you
Mhm.
have chapters in your life. So I played soccer around 8 years old. And then right around then is when you're allowed to start showing livestock. You have to be about that 8 to 12 range to be able to be allowed, you know, for safety reasons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
and when I showed livestock, like I was all the way in. So I traveled all over the world showing them from here to Oklahoma to Texas, anywhere and everywhere. I was gone almost every weekend showing livestock. So I missed a lot of school.
Yeah.
So actually in seventh grade, I started to be homeschooled because of the amount of school that I was missing, you know, for the livestock and then just the amount of hours that I spent in the barn working. So yeah.
Mhm. I think that it's a great point for us to make here because um, I'm learning that athletes out there that they watch social media and then they say, "Oh, I want to be a bodybuilder. I want to be in women's physique. I want to be a bikini competitor." And they go in the gym and they start training, and then they want to do videos and stuff and post it on social media. And the fact is, it's like this is like an inside job. Like you have to, it's like we said, it found us and you connected with it and you love it. You're not doing this. We are not doing this I did not do bodybuilding because I said, I want to be famous. I didn't do it because I said, I want to be an IFBB pro. I just fell in love with, I'm an athlete. I love competing. I love having a goal and having something in front of me. So I'm hearing sometimes from some of the athletes out there or people that want to or aspire to do what you're doing. They think that, it's just not that they think it's easy, because I don't really understand how anybody could think that this is easy.
Yeah, I think it's all in how you portray yourself too. Like me, for example, and of course, like you said, it starts out as a work ethic for me. And then of course, like I'm not doing this to, like you just said, be famous or anything like that. But over time, especially with social media, we take on this role of influencing people. I don't like to call myself an influencer, but I do know that I have an impact on people's lives. And so if I can be known for anything, I want to be known for the work and the love and the passion, and by the grace of God that I am what I am and I can do what I do, So I've never been somebody, like, I'm not chasing accolades, but of course, like, I'm competitive, and I want to win as much as I can win for as long as I can win. But at the end of the day, what I want to be known for, is hard work works. Like, you don't have to be the most genetically gifted athlete, but if you really break it down and you work meticulously hard, not just hard, but meticulously hard, you can accomplish things.
So then with that said, you're going into the Rising Phoenix. We know that.
Yes.
So do you have your blueprint and your game plan, and you plan on taking down Andrea Shaw, Angela Yo, the people that, you know what I mean? Like, because you're there to win.
Yeah, well, that's the mindset that I have when I approach my training. Now, also within doing whatever it takes and working hard, there's a fine line between diligent and delusion. And I think that that's where it comes into play when it comes into something like, are you trying to beat Andrea Shaw? Now, am I doing everything in my power to be the absolute best I can be?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, who knows what can happen? I can get injured and be drawn out of a show, and then somebody that's trying to beat me can take my place, so anything can happen on any given day, but all that I control, all that I can control is the work that I put in every day to be my absolute best. And, when it comes to placings, like, I am chasing a better placing every year, but that's not going to come if I'm not a better me. Yeah. And so like take the Olympia, for example. I like to call myself like the most consistent sixth place, or, like, I hold the title of the most consistent sixth place. Cause I've been for women's, actually I was sixth in women's physique in 2018. And then I was sixth in women's bodybuilding for my first women's bodybuilding in 21.
Yeah.
22, I was sixth. In 23, I was sixth. Now, if you look at all of those physiques are better.
Yeah, totally.
So just because my placing didn't move doesn't mean my physique didn't move. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because, here's the thing. Like, based off of now, like, hearing more, like, learning more about your mindset, which I find so motivating and fascinating. I know that you're looking at your photos and you may not be chasing a place, but you're dissecting your weaknesses and your strengths, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to create something. And that's one thing that I think really separates you from a lot of the girls, is that you have had you've been able to really transform your physique in some crazy ways. And so I want to pull that up, because you did talk a little bit about this on your social media. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit with us about, this was 2019 on the left, then December 2023 on the right. What were you seeing in 2019, and how did you make these improvements? Because this is pretty crazy.
So the left side is actually my last season as women's physique.
Yeah.
That's when I did the Chicago. So the year prior, in 2018, I was fourth at the Arnold. I won the Hawaii Pro just the week after the Arnold. And then I was sixth at the Olympia. And I was on a high, that was only my second year, going into my third year as a pro. And I was like, oh man, I'm on a mission. I'm just going to get better and better. And, 2019 came, and I was like, wow, I'm better than I was last year. You know, I
Mhm.
made the improvements that I feel like the judges, you know, told me to make. And I'm just on this trajectory, man. I'm just going to keep rising.
Mhm.
And then I
Mhm.
get to the Chicago Pro, and I thought in my mind, you know, I had these expectations on myself of winning the show. And we know that it's a subjective thing. So I get up there and I'm not in the first call out. And that's the first time that that's ever happened. And then I'm not in the second call out. And I'm standing there in the podium, and Bob's like, what? Michaela's not in the call out? And I was like, I don't know, you know, so all I can do is stand there with a smile on my face. And then after the show, of course, like I talked to the judges, because I had no idea what was going on. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if we just don't have, like, I think then I do more so now, but then just have a clear picture of what our physique you know, actually looks like and things like that.
Mhm.
Because like I know that I wasn't out of shape. I
Yeah.
made
Mhm.
the improvements, you know, that I felt the judges said that I needed to make. But I got in front of this group of judges, and this is when they were trying to reintroduce, you know, women's bodybuilding.
I
And
see.
in my mind, I never even envisioned myself as a women's bodybuilder, right? Like
Yes.
Right.
I'm a small girl. I was 120 something pounds backstage. Like I'm
Right.
the
Mhm.
smallest girl backstage. So that wasn't even in my mind.
Right.
Mhm.
So I talked to the judges. Let me get one. I talked to the judges, and they're like, I think that you need to move up to women's bodybuilding. I was like, what? Are you crazy? I'm the smallest girl here. And they're like, no, it's how your physique looks on stage.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let me go back and talk to my coach about this. And he's like, oh, absolutely not. No way. We're not doing that. So I'm like, okay. So he's like, we have another, you know, women's physique show in a couple of weeks. Let's just do that. Get in front of a different panel of judges and see where we go from there. And I was like, okay. So we did that again. Like, I think it was like 10th place at Chicago, which is like
Yeah.
Mhm.
my worst ever. I was
Mhm.
devastated, really. But at the end of the
Mhm.
day, the work goes on, right?
Right.
So I did the show the few weeks later, and again, I was 11th place. Same different judges, same feedback. You've outgrown women's physique. We think that you should move into women's bodybuilding. So at this
Mhm.
point, I'm like, okay, I just want to go in the direction that my physique is going. I have no qualms about it. I want to do it. This is what the judges say. They're the ones judging me. I want to win, so I'm going to do what they say to do. So
Mhm.
my coach still wasn't in agreement with that, but he was willing, you know, to let me do women's bodybuilding at the Tampa Pro, which was just a couple of weeks later.
Mhm.
So from there, I tried women's bodybuilding, and that it was like a completely whole new world. Like I felt like I just like found, like I said, just like found this whole new world. I just felt like this relief of, for some reason, stress off me that entire show. And I got
Mhm.
up there, and I'll tell you, the posing was a way harder than women's physique. I was
Uh-huh.
gassed. I was not prepared for that, but I
You
Yeah.
made,
look awesome. This
yeah,
is your first time. It looks,
yeah,
I mean, yeah.
I made the first call out, and Hella was there. She won, and that's the same year that she won the Rising Phoenix.
Yeah.
And then
And you placed where
I placed
behind Helen?
fourth.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So that was behind Pauline and Janine.
Pauline Nelson.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yes.
and they were awesome, you know. So like that was the first time that I felt like, okay, I have more to work towards, because whenever I thought that I was, you know, like too much for women's physique, I
Right.
felt like I no longer had anything to work for, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So then, you know, like in women's bodybuilding, I felt like I had a home, like I wasn't too much, or I
Mhm.
didn't have to water my training down, right?
Yeah.
So from there, what happened in that transformation picture, what all that long-winded story to get to,
No.
from there, I started
Yeah.
coaching myself. And on that left photo, I broke it down. So I actually took 7 months completely off training
Mhm.
after the left photo in 2020. So that's why I
So
didn't compete
so
in
you made the
2020.
decision as far as with your coach, because he wasn't really feeling it or in agreement with you transitioning from women's physique
Correct.
into bodybuilding. So did you make the decision? Why did you make the decision to coach yourself? Like, how did that happen?
I got a little lost for a while. I'm not going to lie, because I started to like question, okay, is this what I should, because there was a lot of, what do you call it? what's the word for it whenever a stigma behind
Yes.
women's bodybuilding. Oh, women's bodybuilding isn't at the Olympia. It doesn't matter. You know, like it's, you got to go, you got to go to extreme. Like, I don't want to get onto that subject, but you got to do extreme, you got to do extreme things, to, you know, to be a women's bodybuilder. And that's where my coach and I differed, because I wanted to do it without that, without going to the extremes. And I wanted to prove that just through my work ethic alone, that I could get there. You know, without doing more than what I was doing in women's physique. And, you know, that was the story behind like my coach and I, you know, parting ways. And so I wanted to do it my way. And so I took the 7 months off from training for one, I needed to get my mind right, because I pride myself in my mentality and my work ethic. And so I felt like I no longer had a home in women's physique. But then I started to let those things get into my head about the women's bodybuilding. Because initially I was like, okay, this is the direction I want to go. But then I'm like, well, wait, what if those people are right? Like, what if I can't do this? Or what if it will take all of those things? What if my work ethic isn't enough? And, you know, like I'm too small for women's bodybuilding. I'm too big for women's physique. So I ended up just taking the time off, getting my mind right. But when I started back to training. And then I found my love for it again. You know, I'm like, wow, now I almost feel guilty forever feeling that way, because, you know, I can do this. And, you know, so like you get your mojo back. And then like I said, okay, I'm just going to try this. I'm just going to try coaching myself and putting myself into a prep and see what I can do. If I get on stage, I get on stage. If I don't, I don't. And that was one of my best preps ever, because I completely took the pressure off of myself, because I put a lot of pressure on myself. So I got X amount of weeks out of a show. I think like 4 weeks, there was a show coming up, and I actually sent Sandy photos of myself. And I was like, Sandy, here's the deal. I took all this time off. I think that I can be women's physique again, but I'm not really sure. But this show coming up has women's physique or women's bodybuilding. I said, is it okay for me to ask you, should I do women's physique or women's bodybuilding? She's like, oh, girl, do women's bodybuilding. And I'm like, okay. So I just took 7 months completely off, lost all this muscle, and then still to come back to do women's bodybuilding. I was like, all right, this is the direction I'm going to go. But my whole point in that is that time off allowed me to really break my physique down. And then when I got back to training, I trained only the things that needed to improve, not my whole body. So that meant I didn't train my upper body for 2 years straight, like leading into now. I trained lower body only. Even up to now, I'm still only training lower body. And then I'll have upper body here and there.
Yeah, because most of the time when I catch you on Instagram, you're doing squats, you're training legs, and
people are always like, "Why don't you post your upper body?" I'm like, "Well, I don't train it, so
you know." And you have Michaela, such a strong back, like your back development. I'm going to say that with women's physique, you guys are known for like conditioning. Right? It's obvious you know how to weight train because everything's there. Upper body and lower bodies all in alignment. So coming from a place of a female bodybuilder, I know that if I'm the current Ms. Olympia and I see someone like a Michaela come over to women's bodybuilding, and now we're on there and they're going to compare you, and you're in the first call out and they call you and you turn to the rear. In my head, I know what your back looks like. I know how lean your glutes get. And I'm like, that's going to show me up. It's going to show me what I'm not. I may be bigger. I may have like crazy symmetry or structure or whatever. But it's like, when you turn to the rear, it's, hey, your back development. And when I saw that you consistently put size on in your quads to bring your quads up to be in alignment with your upper body. I'm like, this woman she knows what she's doing.
This was the first year, like I've been waiting for years for Sandy to compliment my legs. Cause you know, like it's like, so some people ask, okay, when you're training, do you think about your competitors, you know, stuff like, I'm like, no, I think about Sandy while I'm training. I think about all the things she tells me, I need to do with my physique. And that's what I want to do, because at the end of the day, she's the one we have to answer to. Right. So, this was the first year. It was like my proudest moment ever after the Rising Phoenix. That was what she led with, was how much I improved my legs. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah. Wendy points out too in this shot, when we talked about you prior and looked at photos, and just like your angle there, the way you're like leaning to the side, right?
This was you in the Rising Phoenix, and I couldn't quite find a photo where you were hitting it just right. I assumed that you dissected your photos, like it sounds like you're a perfectionist. And I was blown away at how much of an improvement you made from here to here. Okay.
Yeah. So with that pose itself, but prior to the Rising Phoenix, I was practicing it in the mirror, right? So I was like, every time I'm hitting this pose in the mirror, I'm nailing it. And even here at the Olympia, I can see all the things like, okay, I didn't do this right. I need to like tweak this a little bit. But so after the Rising Phoenix, I would have the video and I would like screen record and like rewind, fast forward. And I'm like, okay, when my abs get out of position in this spot, this is what I do with my feet, or this is what I'm doing with my arms or my breath or something like that. So into the Olympia, I just worked on that to where I could perfect it without the mirror, and with like, I could give those little cues in my mind to be able to nail it on stage. Because honestly, like the Olympia for me, I don't get nerves for some reason. So like, I'm a nervous person, right? Yeah. But when I'm about to get on stage, I'm not nervous at all. And if anybody knows me and knows me as a child or a teen, I am shy as it gets, right? But when I get in an element that I'm comfortable with, I don't even think about it. Like, I don't think about the crowd. So it kind of blows my own mind about how little nerves I have on stage. But when it comes to the Olympia, I think it's just a pressure thing. So during my individual, I tend to like mess up just a little bit more than if I were to do the Tampa Pro or something like that. Even though they're equal importance in my mind, I think it's just a little extra pressure thing.
Yeah. I want to show
to be extra careful not to mess up.
Wendy, bring up the image again of her from the rear, the last one.
Okay.
If you can. Because I have this question, like your mom and dad, they are so supportive. They at every event, and not like from far away. They're always like in close proximity to you.
How close you want? No.
This is great. Because this is what I want to ask. Like, I'm going to try to format this question. So when I first started competing, and my mom and dad used to go in all my events, and I'm a cheerleader. And I remember when I told my father that I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and he kind of saw like my body transform, and he's like, my God, like, what are you doing? So I come from a very strict Christian family.
I did too.
Yes, I saw one of your posts. And so my father he wasn't really feeling it. So he didn't really go to my first Olympia. My mom is like, okay, if my daughter, I'm going to support her and what she does. And she was at the first Olympia. So I know your mom and dad gave birth to you. How did they feel? Like they could see the rear end and the striations. They know what your butt looked like because they gave birth to you. So honestly, I had a challenge with my family in the beginning. My father was like, I don't want to see you up there half, not dressed completely.
Honestly, like my dad, he makes a joke where he's like, I only have eyes for you when I'm at these things, right? So he's like only looking at me. But no, honestly, like I love that picture. But honestly, they would support me if I was flying pigeons or throwing pennies into a pond. Like they just want me happy, and they want me to pursue. They know that I'm a good kid. I've never caused them any trouble. I've never broken the rules. Like it's just one of those things where it's like they just genuinely want me happy. And honestly, like they love it. Sometimes they don't love it more than me, but in terms of a joke, like I say that they love it more than I do. Mom's Sandy and Dad's Steve. So they think like they've started analyzing shows and judging shows. Or my mom's the social media guru. I don't scroll much, but she'll be like, hey, did you see this, or did you see this person,
Oh,
or
that's
something
awesome.
like that, you know. But no, like, it's funny. I've never had a single like qualm about it with them. I even ask them to this day. I'm always like, I just want to make you guys proud, right? So if there's ever a time where you think like, oh, Michaela, like, I think you should, you know, like, take it easy, or, you know, something like that.
Right,
But
right.
no, they just, you know, want to support me in whatever I do.
Yeah, yeah, and they're used to you being in something that image of strength because of what you did, you know, for all the years
Right.
prior to bodybuilding. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Do you have how do you deal with the transformations you were starting to make, and friends and family and people, and at the grocery store and the mailman, like you
Yeah.
transitioning into this person, you know?
Yeah, honestly, it's really blows my mind, because I do see a lot of females, and of course, you have the little things on social media that you get those crazy people on there. I mean, everybody's a gift from God, but, you know, some of you, I don't know about you, but you know, like, I see a lot of girls like get hurt by, you know, like, things that get said and stuff like that. But honestly, like, I genuinely get a lot of respect, both like in person and online. And I think the most special thing to me is like when it comes from people that you wouldn't expect it from at all. Because to me, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, right? So
Yeah.
I automatically expect the 80-year-old lady at the grocery store thinks I'm gross. But no, she comes up to me and says, oh my gosh, I love your arms, or something like that. You know, so I love it when the people that you don't think would like it show you respect. And I think it comes down to how you carry yourself, how you portray yourself. And like, when it comes to the social media, people see me for my
Right.
work ethic, not for, you know, showing this or that and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I mostly get respect.
I want to talk to you about a little bit more. I want to go back to your transformation, because I can relate to this. You know, when I started competing, I came from a gymnastics background, and I talk about this all the time. So this is going to sound like, you know, Linda's heard this a million times from me, but, you know, coming into the sport, I had, you know, not symmetrical physique, because to be a gymnast, you have to build really thick obliques, traps, all the things that go into that. And then I was a track athlete too, so I built a lot of muscles that threw off my shape. And it's interesting that you said that you stopped training and that you like basically atrophied muscles.
Yep.
And then you built other things up. It really is like an art project. And I think that I really want to dive into that more, because people don't realize how much of an art project it is. I think a lot of people think you just slab muscle on you, and then you go out there and compete with the most muscle, the most, you know, conditioning. For you, you did it right. You atrophied, you built, you sculpted. So let's talk a little bit more about that, because that's fascinating to me. I relate to that. I mean, I see that in this photo. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I think like everybody, we all want to talk about doing whatever it takes, but sometimes doing whatever it takes means doing the things that we don't want to do. You know, so did I want to take off completely training my upper body? No, I love it. Like, I haven't trained how I quote unquote want for years. You know, so I go into the gym and I train the way that I need to train in order for or when I say need, I mean like what I think that I need at that time. Every year, you know, like this season shows me what I need next season and stuff like that. So I'm constantly learning. I certainly don't have it all figured out, but I think like this shows, you know, just like truly breaking the physique down and adding to it what it needs, because bodybuilding is about completing the physique, right? And I don't mean completing as in coming to a completion, but completing it from head to toe in terms of being as balanced as you can be. And that's one of the biggest things that I needed to improve and still need. I'm still working on it. Like I said, you know, like this season shows me what I can do next season. And the things that I learned this season, I'm like, wow, I wish I would have known that last season, because I could have been even better, you know, last season. So it's really just about breaking everything down. And like I said, you know, building it back up again.
Yeah. And even look at the vacuum. So when did you know you could do a vacuum? Because you don't do vacuums in women's physique, and it's, you know.
So that actually, you can see on the left photo, I had a hernia. So in 2021, after the Olympia, I got it fixed. And then I had some complications with the surgery. So again, there, I ended up having like 4 or 5 months off of training that year again because of the surgery and the complications and the healing time and just taking extra time to be careful. So within that time, I had in my mind, like, okay, I've heard these horror stories about hernia surgeries causing distension in the midsection or damage to the abs. And I was like, bound and determined, like we talked about before, I'm analyzing everything on how I can be better, every little detail. So the vacuum really just started by me not wanting anything bad to happen in terms of a negative reaction from the surgery, because I had a lot of swelling in the stomach. So just over time, I was trying to like just make sure that that didn't affect my physique. And then flash forward, because like at the time, say like, what was it, a year or two ago, when I could do it, it didn't look good in my poses. So I didn't do it on stage. Now it looks a little bit, since my legs are fuller, stuff like that, it accentuates my physique a little bit, right? So I can do it in my poses, or I may do like the quarter ab flex. But yeah, that's really where the vacuum came from.
Okay. Okay. So what are you planning now and training for? You always strategically, you won some big shows, Tampa, Atlanta, Hawaii. I love this shot right here.
So beautiful. Such a great shot.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the Rising Phoenix is August 24th.
Yes,
and they scheduled it and planned it so that you have enough time to like comfortably, I guess, go into the Rising Phoenix. You probably, go into the Olympia. You probably stay in shape like all year. Because earlier you said you didn't drink the polar.
the soda. Yeah, no.
Not sponsored, by the way, but man, this stuff is good.
Yeah, and I'm here drinking Coke Zero. She's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm just a little psycho. No.
And you don't have to reveal it if that's something that you know.
No, I don't mind. Actually, do you mind if I ask you, what do you think about that? What do you think about like athletes either sharing what shows they're doing to, maybe like generate, I don't want to say hype, but generate like, so say like if it were the Atlanta Pro, right? How do you feel about a top athlete that can potentially win the show saying, I'm going to do this show? Do you think that detours other athletes from doing the show? Or do you think that it's good publicity for the show?
I think this is great. I think it's great publicity for the show from the point of view of being a promoter. Wendy can really talk about that because she just competed, and I know on several occasions, compete. Yeah. She's beat some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So it's not like she's beat people that, they placed in the third in the Olympia. Yeah. And, you go and you look at that list comes out.
That don't mean nothing. Yeah.
And it don't mean nothing.
Yeah. Well, Michaela, you were a part of this world before it was winning only. You were part of this world when they were still allowing points. This is such an interesting question. Probably one of the best questions that I've ever heard asked on FEMME Friday, because there are so many moving parts to this, right? I mean, before, when there was a point system, I feel like it was a little bit different because, you weren't necessarily like thrown off if there were like serious heavy hitters announcing that they were going to do the show, because not that you were competing to collect points, but just knowing that there's a point system, I feel like it kind of takes a little bit of that like strain off of. But now you have to win a show to qualify for the Olympia, and if that's what you're, with all that, you work so hard, you put everything into it, you want to do a show that you feel like you can really win, right? And so I'm not totally sure, but I would assume that there are people that might be detracted from doing a contest if they heard that you were doing it. But to Linda's point, it really does help the promoter if you promote the show and you announce that you're doing it. So from a fan's perspective and from a perspective of like the NPC show that coincides with it, I feel like
the business of bodybuilding, right?
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's so good for you to like, for the fans and the NPC athletes. I feel like it's
Yes.
so good to be like out there and, as much as you possibly can. And yeah, there's that competitive element to it where, people want to stay silent and work in silence. I don't know. I tend to think that it's good to be a little bit more present with,
Yeah.
the fans and the other athletes,
Yeah.
That's my opinion. It's really just an
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
for me,
agree.
like, I just wanted to ask that question because I'm
It's a great
genuinely curious.
question.
I think that in my mind, because I would never want to announce a show and then like somebody say that's new to the women's bodybuilding. That could beat me. That could very well beat me. Think that in there, because sometimes we don't believe in ourselves the way that other people do, or the way that is in actual reality. So I would never want to detour another athlete from competing in a show. But with that said, like I'm not I'm not trying to be secretive. I'm not trying to like pull one over on anybody like that. So I just wanted to know from you guys' perspective what you thought. But anyways, so my plan is the Tampa Pro. But with that said, because I want to win that again for one.
Right, because you're the champion.
But with that said, there is an element of wanting to win the Atlanta Pro again as well. So I started my prep. I started my prep a little bit later than what I had originally wanted to this year, because I had just something happen at the beginning of the year that just delayed me a little bit, but it's all good now. So if my body is on track and ready and I can do the Atlanta Pro, without, like anything like throwing a hiccup in terms of like Tampa or Phoenix or the Olympia, then absolutely I'll lead right into there, because I've won both, and why not win both again?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Two prestigious shows. I feel like it is so important of course, it's wonderful for promoters and for the NPC when the athlete, comes out and says, I'm competing in this competition. And what I think, I lean more toward, I'm going to say 95%, like put it out there. And the reason I say that, you guys, the journey and how much it takes for you to go through that process, and you want to take advantage of that. You want to record it. You want to put it out there. It's like that energy. You're feeling your very best during that time, because when you lead up and you win the show, or let's say you don't win the show or something happens, now it's time to go downward. You know what I mean? Like, you're on the top of that hill, you're feeling 100%. I've even won Olympias, and even though I won the Olympia, it's still maybe it was by 1 point, or people thought that the girl that placed second should have won. Now they're hating on me, kind of giving me grief, and I'm like, So I'm like, put it out there.
Yeah, my only thing I think with myself, because I never actually like announce it ahead of time, like, hey guys, I'm doing this show. It's not to be secretive. It's like, who says it? One of the fighters, the name's escaping me, but it's like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So I can have a plan, right? But anything can go wrong along the way. So I think the fear, or I guess, quote unquote, not a real fear, but is to put it out there and then something happen along the way, and then you have to change the course of your plan, and then you have to explain why. Because I'm somebody, like, I've had an adversity every single prep that could have very well like taken me completely out of the prep. And like, whether it be an injury or like the surgery or anything like that, or one of them, I had that big sickness, leading into the show. So I don't ever want to like say, because I'm a person of my word, right? So when I say something, I'm going to do it. So I don't ever want to put anything out there and then something potentially detour you from that plan, and you have to explain yourself, So like, if I have an adversity, I'd rather finish it out and then say, hey, by the way, I overcame this through this and I accomplished this, right?
Yeah.
I'm so with you on that. Oh my gosh, Michaela, we just bonded, because I feel that way too. I do think that it's good to be authentic and share your truth, but also I think people sometimes they run the risk by oversharing. And now this is just a personal opinion. I'm not judging anyone, because everyone has their own way of sharing things, right?
Absolutely.
if you share something while you're going through it and you overshare, you do run the risk of people maybe over sympathizing or, trying to build you up when you're somebody that maybe doesn't react well to that. Like for me, when people are like, come on, girl, get up, you got this. Like, don't like those like encouraging things when I'm like I don't want, I need
Yeah.
my
Because
energy.
you know that in your mind,
Yes.
but you just need to sort through it yourself.
Yes.
Right.
I don't
So
like
like,
pity.
I'll just be honest. Like I was gonna do the triple D or the triple D at the beginning of the one that you just won. I
Yeah.
was gonna do that. And at 8 weeks out, completely outside the gym, nothing in the gym, I got hurt. Outside the gym, normal day, 8 weeks
No.
out, got hurt.
What
And then
happened?
I hurt my hamstring. So it's
Oh,
completely fine now, but
dang.
it's completely fine now. But all it took all I trained was lower body, right? So I couldn't train at all. I had 8 weeks that I was just like doing little things into the gym. And so I was 8 weeks out of the show when it happened. So I couldn't do the show, right? So this is nothing that I was going to talk about until I do the Atlanta Pro or the Tampa Pro or the Rising Phoenix and I place well, I overcome what I did. And then I was like, hey, by the way, this happened. But guess what? I still came out victorious because I never play myself as a victim. I just become the victor at the end, right?
I love
So
that.
it's just one of those things like you just never know, anything can happen. But I guess at the end of the day, you just do what you do and that's all you can do.
Yep, that's it. Just do what you do.
But no,
Well,
with that said, like everything is perfectly good now. All it took was just a little bit of time the only reason I took the time off was to just not make anything worse or anything like that. So it's all good now and we're good to go.
oh yeah. Good
You're like
to
me.
go.
You don't like pity. I hate pity.
Yeah.
You want to get through it and then tell everyone how, the success.
Hey, by the way, I overcame this. If you actually have anything that happens to you and you feel like you're in the middle, like when I had my surgeries and I lost everything on my physique after that time off, I thought there was absolutely no way of coming back. But guess what? I just put my head down one day at a time, put in the work. And then at the end of the 16, 20 weeks or whatever, I had a physique that I could put on stage. And then I told my story.
I love this. Thank you for sharing your story. I mean, Wendy, this was just so awesome, right? Just really a great conversation, Michaela.
I'm a preacher's kid, so hopefully I didn't like over elaborate my stories that could have been
it was so well done, and this is what I love about these conversations is that we get to people get to hear what's going on with you and how do you do what you do. And it's like what you just said, you have challenges and hurdles, but you just put one foot in front of the other and you show up on stage. If you can do it, you do it and you're there. So
I thoroughly enjoyed learning more about you and your journey and your mindset. It's so inspiring. I feel so motivated right now. I want to
ready to go to the gym.
But I want to go work out again.
That's awesome. But I just wanted to take a second to like thank both of you for having me on. Like I said, I'm just somebody that stays quiet and does my thing. So I really appreciate you even like considering me to come on. And Linda, you specifically, like I said before, we don't know each other on a super deep personal level, but I feel like you know me. I just want to take the moment to appreciate you for always like showing that you care and making me feel welcome anywhere and everywhere that I see you. I feel like you go out of your way to do that. And maybe you do that for everyone, I'm sure, just because that's the type of person that you are. I genuinely feel it. And I want you to know that I feel it and that I see it and that I appreciate you.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so happy that you joined Women Bodybuilders and you're on our team. And again, I recognize when I see an athlete that you're precise and you dot your I's and you cross your T's. I have mad respect for you. And it's challenging sometimes to be at a show and if at the Atlanta Pro, you place second in Atlanta, you're such a great champion. you know. So I just call it like it is. I think you're an awesome athlete, and I know I'll see you at the Olympia in Las Vegas on that stage. I know I'll see you at the Rising Phoenix,
Absolutely.
but all three of us will be at the Olympia.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll be in the audience. You guys will be on stage.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We'll
All right.
reunite there.
All right, guys. And for that, thank you, Michaela Aycock, for joining
Thank you.
us. And yes.
Bye, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen.